See, moving on, Matthew Lloyd says, Rush Limbaugh just signed a contract for another 4 years of broadcasting excellence. What does our side look like if Rush retires in 4 years or pulls a Scalia on us and exits before then? Do we have anyone who can take up that mantle, or is that inheritance destined to be divided among many messengers? Is Rush irreplaceable? Another great question. Yeah, I think Rush was certainly irreplaceable in the 90s and into the 2000s. He was absolutely irreplaceable because he was the only conservative voice on in the culture. He was the only one. He was on talk radio. It started out on little stations that didn't want, they just wanted AM stations, or, they didn't want to pay the music rights or whatever. So they just had this guy come on and talk, and he started to build this incredible audience because he was saying things that half the country wanted to hear and no one was saying at all, more than half the country. And so Rush became a juggernaut because Rush appeared before the internet. Rush came in and owned radio. Now, if anybody thinks I'm taking anything away from the guy, Rush Limbaugh is an actual genuine genius. He's an actual honest-to-God genius. He's a moral genius at the very least. And I know it. He's an intellectual genius as well. So is Rush irreplaceable? No, not anymore. He used to be, but the internet has allowed any number of, Rush-lite pretenders to, appear on the internet. And these guys are, basically just moving in and taking up some of his mantle. They're starting to carry some of the water for him. He's been a remarkable, unbelievable guy. And I've told this story before, but I'll just let you know just how much I respect the guy and why. Rush has so much moral clarity. And so much moral courage that Rush will say things that will make me gasp. And I'm a conservative gladiator. I'll say, did he just say that? Did he just say that out loud? And you realize, well, yes, he did. This is also what I believe. This is one of my core beliefs. He just said it out loud. How does he have that kind of nerve? This is what social proof does, what peer pressure does, and this whole, Stockholm syndrome that we have as conservatives in this culture because of the unbelievable social proof put on us by the news media and politicians and pop culture and Hollywood and all the rest. And Rush just doesn't care. He just doesn't care. He's got the nerve. And more than the nerve, he's got the brains to see how this thing works and to do it. And the only person I've ever seen who was any good at that at all, besides Rush Limbaugh, was Andrew Breitbart. They were cut out of the same cloth in a lot of ways. Both of them fighters, and both of them very tough, and both of them very, very, very nice guys in private who just got a little tired of watching their country getting beat up. But of all the things that Rush Limbaugh does, this example that I've used before, to me, is Rush Limbaugh in a nutshell, and it goes to his moral courage and his moral clarity, and therefore his intellectual courage and clarity, because he makes a moral point intellectually. And that was the episode. I didn't hear it. Somebody told me about it, but basically something to the effect of he was on the show and he was talking about, well, ladies and gentlemen, I left my beautiful office here in EIB Central, Excellence in Broadcasting, walked away from the golden microphone, and I was invited to a golf tournament in Houston, Texas, which, needless to say, I decided to attend in order to raise their attendance numbers. And so, naturally enough, when it came time to go to Houston, I boarded EIB-1, which is my private Gulfstream 4 jet, and we took off and headed for Houston. And somewhere over the Gulf of Mexico, from Florida to Houston, it dawned on me that I'd left my golf clubs and my favorite hat back in Florida. So I made a phone call, and they put the golf clubs and the hat on EIB-2, which is my other private jet, and they had it there maybe 45 minutes after I landed. I heard this story, and I went, oh, Jesus, this guy's not only talking about taking a private jet to a golf tournament, he's talking about sending his bags on a separate private jet. And you think, my God, what's that cost? The cost of that. And then you think about, and all the carbon footprint nonsense that we've been just swallowing this whole time. And I thought, he's going to get murdered for saying that he sent a jet to get his golf clubs. When in point of fact, by the way, Hollywood executives were sending private jets to Aspen to deliver flowers to girlfriends. It's been happening out here forever. But the second I heard that story, I just was like shocked. And the second I was shocked, I realized that's the genius of the guy. He doesn't make any apologies. And when I thought, why am I so shocked about this? I'm shocked because I've been conditioned to be shocked. But when you get right down to it, you don't even have to dig very deep. That's my philosophy in a nutshell. Rush Limbaugh's worth hundreds of millions of dollars because he makes hundreds of millions of dollars in advertising revenues. That's why he gets paid what he gets paid, and that's why he has as many jets as he wants. He's sold a lot of bottles of Snapple, that guy. So he has a market value, and it's a high market value, and he's earned it, and he works for it. And so he's put in the hard work, and he's got the talent and the uniqueness. So, of course, he can send his second jet to bring his golf clubs after his first jet. That's what we believe, right? It's his money. He made it honestly, and he provided value and service in exchange for the cash. So if he wants to send his private jet to bring the golf clubs, then they can do that. If he wants to send his private jet to bring him one of these Elvis Presley, dishes. That's what you're allowed to do when you have money. So it was just mind-boggling to me when I heard that story because he was so clear. He didn't have to explain capitalism. He didn't have to explain wealth creation, although he's done that many times. He simply told the story of taking a private jet to a golf tournament and then sending his bags along on a second private jet. I thought that's it. That's the kind of guts and courage that you have when you're so morally clear, when you're so completely convinced that you're in the right, that you not only do you not worry what liberals are going to say, you're just daring them to say something. It's just genius, really was. So no, I don't think he's irreplaceable anymore. He certainly is the kingpin of the whole operation. He's certainly, I think, the greatest conservative mind out there, and he may be the greatest conservative mind ever. But he was so critical because there was nothing else during the Clinton years. There was nothing. There was Clinton, there was all of this liberalization, and there was nothing except for Rush Limbaugh. And he single-handedly, I think, kept this whole conservative idea alive during those dark years. And then when the internet came along, the price of access, the ability to get your opinion out there, dropped to zero, essentially, for the internet. And that's how I got started, and a bunch of other people got started. Millions of people got started. Millions. But the number that actually is still going or went for years, you count on two hands, right? Maybe 10 of us, 15 tops. Almost all of us got started in blogs. Michelle Malkin, and obviously Steve Green and Scott Ott, who I work with, and Steve Crowder. And it cost us essentially nothing to get in the marketplace, but it did cost us some talent, because if we didn't have any talent or weren't writing stuff that was interesting, nobody would have heard of us like the millions of other people that got started. So that's a great question. Thanks, Matthew. Moving on.